Imagine you're in love, planning for the future, but suddenly your girlfriend disappears with your bank account for a fitness guru with perfect abs. And years later, she shows up on your doorstep begging for it all back, thinking you're still her backup. You think I forgave her? Oh, no. This story is full of fire, betrayal, and revenge that will take your breath away. My name's Ethan Wilson. I'm 34, and I'm the kind of guy you'd spot at a local dive bar, munching on nachos, griping about why the Denver Broncos blew another game, or debating where to find the city's best burrito. I was born in Omaha, Nebraska, in a house with a sagging porch and a creaky gate, where the smell of my mom's meatloaf and my dad's motor oil was the backdrop of my childhood. My mom, Linda, was a nurse at the city hospital, often dragging home after midnight with tired eyes, but always finding time to bake cookies for me and my sister. My dad, Richard, was a mechanic at a trucking warehouse, his hands perpetually stained with grease, an old radio in the garage blaring country tunes. They worked their butts off so me and my sister, Claire, could afford better sneakers or a trip to Denver during school breaks. Luxury? That wasn't our thing, but I never felt shortchanged. Claire, my sister, 4 years older, lives in Minneapolis now, with her husband and 2 rowdy boys who think Uncle Ethan's the coolest because I sneak them candy. We're not the type to chat daily, but at Christmas or family barbecues at my parents' place, we always pick up where we left off, laughing about how we used to fight over the last slice of pie. In high school, I wasn't a star. Not the guy scoring the winning touchdown or leaving prom with the queen. I played defense on the football team, but mostly warmed the bench while my buddies cheered from the stands. Schoolwork? Solid C's. Maybe a B if I wasn't slacking. Scholarships? Not my scene. But I had a crew of friends, fellow geeks who'd stay up all night playing Halo on a beat-up Xbox, chugging cola, and dreaming about striking it rich someday. Girls didn't exactly line up for me in high school. I was average, 5'11", lanky, dark hair that started thinning by 25. Thanks, Dad's jeans. My first high school crush, Sarah Miller, lasted 6 months until she ditched me for a guy with a motorcycle who looked like he stepped out of a Nirvana video. That was my first ego bruise, but not the last. After high school, I went to the University of Nebraska, picking computer science because it seemed stable and I liked messing with code. That's where I started finding myself. Turns out, I was pretty good at programming, and it gave me a boost of confidence. I made friends I still keep in touch with, like Nate, my best bud, who's always down to drag me to a bar or roast me about my dating flops. College brought a few flings, but nothing serious. A freshman year girlfriend who dumped me for a senior with a car. Another on junior year who decided we were too different after 3 months. I wasn't a ladies' man, but I learned not to take rejection personally. After graduation, I landed a developer job at a small tech company in Denver, a city that pulled me in with its mountains, breweries, and vibe of freedom. I rented a 1-bedroom in Capitol Hill, overlooking a parking lot and a neighbor's grill, and bought a used 2016 Jeep Cherokee that still breaks down at the worst times. The job wasn't a dream. A gray industrial park office, vending machine coffee. But the paycheck covered bills and let me splurge on a new controller or a taco joint dinner. By 27, I thought life was coming together. Student loans almost paid off, steady job, friends nearby. I'm no gym rat, but I kept in shape. Jogging in the park, a few push-ups before bed. I love spicy food. The more jalapenos, the better. Watching pressure washing carpet videos. Don't ask, it's my weird obsession. And chilling with Nate over beers, arguing about which Tarantino flick reigns supreme. I was ready for the next step, finding someone to build a future with. But fate, as it turned out, had a curveball waiting that flipped my world upside down. It all started in March 2018 at a tech expo in Denver's convention center. My company sent me to man a booth, handing out flyers about our database management software. The gig was boring as hell. Smile, repeat the same pitch, act like you care. The hall buzzed with voices, smelling of coffee and new carpet. And I was counting down to lunch when I saw her. Kayla Reed, 26, was at the booth across from mine, pitching a startup's protein shakes. She was like a magazine ad come to life, long chestnut hair in soft waves, sparkling blue eyes, skin so flawless it looked photoshopped. Her figure, toned with perfect curves, was highlighted by a tight athletic outfit with the brand's logo, black leggings, and a neon green crop top. She moved with a dancer's grace, handing out shake samples and smiling so brightly people stopped dead in their tracks. I'm not the guy who just walks up to a stunner like Kayla. My flirting attempts usually crash into awkward silence or a joke nobody gets. But that day, Kayla started the conversation. During a lull when the crowd thinned, she strolled over to our booth, holding a plastic cup of her protein shake. "Pretty dull, huh?" she said, nodding at the humming hull. Her voice was warm with a slight rasp, like a coffee shop singer. I mumbled something about endless presentations, expecting her to bail, but she laughed, clear, genuine, like I'd said something brilliant. We got to talking about work, Denver, how she hated early flights and always brought a neck pillow on planes. I told her about the time I spilled coffee on a client at an expo, and she cracked up, covering her mouth. By the end of the day, she gave me her number, scribbling it on the back of a flyer. "Text me if you're up for coffee," she said, winking, then headed back to her booth, leaving me in a near euphoric daze. I walked out of the convention center, clutching the flyer, feeling like the lead in a rom-com where the average guy gets a shot with the dream girl. At home, I showed the number to Nate, and he stared at me like I was an alien. "Ethan, she looks like a model. You sure this isn't a prank?" I brushed it off, but deep down, I wondered too. Kayla was too perfect to be real. We started texting. She lived in Phoenix, but her company sent her to Denver often, and 2 weeks later, we had our first date. I picked a Mexican joint downtown, with colorful string lights and the smell of fresh tortillas. Kayla ordered an avocado salad, no dressing. I got a burrito the size of my head with extra salsa. She was a whirlwind, talking about her trips to Mexico, her dream to launch a fitness brand, how she wanted to inspire people to be better. Her eyes lit up when she spoke, and I couldn't look away. Me, a guy whose idea of exercise was a monthly jog and a few push-ups, was hooked. She laughed at my jokes, asked about my job, and I felt special, like she saw something in me nobody else did. A couple of months later, we were dating. Kayla was magnetic. Her Instagram was like a glossy magazine. Sunrise yoga with desert views, perfect smoothies in mason jars, her in leggings against Colorado peaks. She had 50,000 followers and was proud of every new one. She posted motivational quotes like, "Your body is your temple," and workout videos where every jump looked choreographed. My friends were floored. "Ethan, she's out of your league," Nate said, scrolling her profile. "How'd you pull this off?" I didn't know. But every time she texted "miss you" with a heart emoji, I felt on top of the world. I didn't see how her light was starting to eclipse mine. Kayla was like the sun, bright, warm, but capable of burning you if you got too close. For the first few months, I was blinded by her energy, her beauty, her ability to make me feel like the center of the universe. She'd grab my hand mid-dinner, look into my eyes, and say, "You make me feel safe, and I'd melt like ice cream in July." But soon, I started noticing shadows hiding behind her glow. Kayla craved attention, not just mine, but everyone's. In restaurants, she'd flirt with waiters to snag a window table or a free dessert. Her smile was a weapon. She'd tilt her head, nibble her lip, and people did whatever she wanted. If someone didn't fall for her charm, she got pissy. One time, we were at a downtown Denver cafe with wooden tables and the smell of fresh espresso. The barista, a kid in his 20s, mixed up her order. Regular latte instead of sugar-free. Kayla flipped out, her voice sharp as a blade. "Is it that hard to get it right?" she demanded the manager while I stared at the floor, pretending to read the menu. The barista apologized. The manager brought a new coffee, but Kayla grumbled all evening. Later, she hugged me and cooed, "Sorry, I just hate when things aren't perfect." I let it slide, but it left a bad taste. Her phone was like an extra limb. She'd cut off our conversation to reply to an Instagram comment or shoot a story with perfectly arranged plates. We could be in a park, watching the sunset over the mountains, and she'd pull out her phone, snapping selfies, adjusting her hair, cycling through filters. "It's my job, Ethan," she'd say if I frowned. "I'm building a brand." I nodded, though I didn't get why she needed 3 accounts. One for fitness, with workout clips and nutrition tips. One for lifestyle, with aesthetic shots of sunsets and coffee. And one for food, with her vegan recipes. She checked likes every 5 minutes, deleted comments she didn't like, and got mad if a post didn't hit at least 1,000 hearts. If a photo flopped, she'd be cold all day, nitpicking. The food was too salty. My sweater looked cheap. The movie I picked was boring. I started noticing how she treated people. She was sweet to anyone who could be useful. Bartenders, gym managers, bloggers with big followings. But with delivery drivers, janitors, or cashiers, she was icy, sometimes outright rude. One night, we ordered pizza to my place. A chill evening. Avengers on Netflix. Kayla scrolling her phone. The delivery guy was 7 minutes late because of a downpour hammering the windows. Kayla yanked open the door, grabbed the box, and chewed him out like he'd stolen her wallet. "Seriously? I waited forever. This is unacceptable." The guy, soaked to the bone, mumbled an apology and left. I tried joking to lighten the mood, but she rolled her eyes. "Ethan, standards matter," she said, like I was a kid who didn't get grown-up stuff. I felt uneasy, but kept quiet. Her manipulations were subtle but deadly. She knew how to weaponize her looks. At the airport, she could score a business-class seat with a smile to the gate agent. In restaurants, waiters brought her compliments and extra guac. Once stuck in traffic, a cop pulled us over for speeding. I braced for a ticket, but Kayla leaned toward the window, tossed her hair, and sweet-talked the officer so well he let us off with a warning. I was impressed, but it bugged me deep down. She didn't just use it on strangers. She used it on me. If I got mad, she'd hug me, press close, and whisper, "You don't want me upset, do you?" And I'd cave, forgetting what we were even arguing about. We dated long distance for nearly a year. I flew to Phoenix every couple of weeks, burning hundreds on flights and hotels. 6 a.m. flights, cramped seats, airport Starbucks coffee, all to spend weekends with her. She lived in a trendy downtown Phoenix apartment with white walls, potted cacti, and a giant selfie mirror. We hiked the desert, ate vegan tacos, and I felt part of her vibrant world. She came to Denver less often, citing shoots or brand meetings. I didn't mind. I liked making her happy. When her company opened a Denver office, she moved in with me, and I was over the moon. My apartment transformed. Cabinets filled with protein bars, almond milk, and superfoods I'd never heard of. Her dumbbells and yoga mat took over the living room corner. My Xbox got banished to the closet to make way for her studio, a huge mirror and ring light for content. She rearranged furniture, hung motivational posters with quotes like, "Be your best self and shine." My ratty old couch got draped with a white throw because it ruined the aesthetic. I joked that my place looked like her Instagram, but I didn't care. I was so thrilled she was here, I didn't notice my life dissolving into hers. By October 2019, after a year and a half together, I decided to propose. Kayla had been dropping hints for months, sending me ring pics in DMs, showing stories of friends proposed to on beaches or in Paris, sighing at couples in restaurants. I knew she wanted something big, but my budget wasn't endless. I picked a ring for $12,000, white gold, 1.5 carat diamond, one she'd liked on a jeweler's post. To afford it, I took out a loan, piling onto my student debt. It was nuts, but I wanted her happy. The proposal was at a swanky rooftop restaurant in downtown Denver. Floor-to-ceiling windows, views of snow-capped Rockies, candles on tables. I blew half a paycheck on the night. Oysters, filet mignon, an $80 bottle of Chardonnay. I was so nervous, I spilled water on the tablecloth as the waiter led us to our table. Kayla wore a tight black dress, her hair cascading over her shoulders, and I felt like the luckiest guy alive. When the waiter brought champagne with the ring on a silver tray, I got down on one knee, heart pounding like a drum. "Kayla, will you marry me?" I said, my rehearsed speech flying out the window. She smiled, her eyes sparkled, and she said yes. I slipped the ring on her finger. The room clapped, but I noticed her immediately grab her phone, angling the ring for a story. She looked at the screen more than at me. It stung, but I told myself it was her way of sharing joy. The wedding became her obsession. Kayla wanted perfection, a ceremony in Colorado Springs, at a vineyard with mountain views, 150 guests, a designer dress, a photo booth with live flowers, and a neon Love Forever sign for Instagram. She spent hours on Pinterest, showing me sketches of invitations, fabrics, bouquets. I went into debt. $25,000 for the venue, $8,000 for the dress, $7,000 for catering, $3,000 for the photographer, $2,000 for the DJ. My parents, practical folks, were stunned. Dad, over black coffee at their Omaha kitchen table, said, "Ethan, this is too much. You can get married simpler and not owe for half your life." Mom nodded, adding, "We want to help, but this is crazy." Kayla, hearing this, threw a fit, sobbing in our bedroom, accusing them of disrespecting her dreams and not accepting her. Like an idiot, I defended her, even when it strained things with my parents. I got into a phone fight with Dad, saying he didn't understand how important this was to Kayla. He went quiet, then said softly, "I just don't want you hurt, son." I didn't listen. Cracks in our relationship grew. Kayla got paranoid. If I stayed late at work, she'd make a scene, accusing me of being too friendly with female coworkers. Once, she grilled me for liking a colleague's birthday post. "What, you into her?" she hissed, eyes narrowed. I caught her checking my phone while I slept, her face lit by the screen, scrolling my texts. "What are you doing?" I asked, trying not to snap. She brushed it off. "Just setting your alarm." I knew it was BS, but didn't push, not wanting a fight 6 months before the wedding. I started noticing how often she mentioned Blake, a fitness trainer she met shooting content for her brand. Blake Thornton was an Instagram star, 1 million followers, chiseled abs, a tan like he lived on a beach, and rock star charisma. His profile was all workout videos, motivational speeches, and shots with flashy cars. Kayla met him at a Denver fitness festival her company sponsored. He helped with her content, filming workouts, giving promo tips, crafting hashtags. She'd come back from shoots glowing, raving about how Blake nailed a shot or hooked her up with a blogger with 200K followers. I didn't see a threat. Kayla swore it was just work. But I noticed her eyes light up when she talked about him, the way she smiled reading his texts. I pushed the thoughts away, but doubt crept in. Blake slid into our lives like a shadow growing at dusk. Kayla started spending more time with him. They shot content in a gym with panoramic windows, against mountain backdrops, in a studio with white walls and neon lights. She'd come home late, eyes sparkling, gushing about how Blake pitched a new video format or introduced her to an influencer. He knows how to break through in this industry, she'd say, scrolling his profile. I tried to be supportive, but every mention of his name tightened my chest. He's just a colleague, Ethan, she'd say if I asked. You're not jealous, are you? Her tone was light, but irritation seeped through, like I was a kid who didn't get adult business. One night, I glanced at her phone on the kitchen counter. We'd just eaten dinner. I'd made her favorite beef tacos with salsa. She was in the shower, her phone charging. The screen lit up with a text from Blake, a heart emoji, and today was, I froze. My pulse raced, but I didn't open the chat. I didn't want to be that guy, snooping, but that heart stuck in my head like a splinter. I started noticing things. She set a phone passcode, which she never had. She'd angle her screen away when texting him. Her stories with Blake got closer. They laughed, touched, posed together, their bodies nearly brushing. I told myself it was for content, her job, but the doubts grew. One evening, Kayla came home later than usual. It was around 10, rain drumming outside, and I was on the couch, flipping through Netflix. I'd made dinner, tacos, her favorite, with a bowl of guac on the table. She walked in, dropped her gym bag by the door, and headed straight to the shower, not saying a word. I noticed her workout clothes weren't sweaty, like she'd just changed. When she came out, in a towel with wet hair, I asked how her day was. Fine. Tired, she said, curtly. Her phone kept buzzing, notifications piling up, the screen flashing on the table. I couldn't hold back and asked, Is that Blake? She rolled her eyes, her lips tightening. Ethan, really? We were going over work plans. Don't start. I shut up, but inside I was boiling. I felt like a fool, but didn't know how to stop it. A few days later, I saw something else. We were at a party at her friend Tiffany's, a trendy blogger. Her house was straight out of Pinterest. White sofas, marble counters, huge windows overlooking Denver's lights. The guests, influencers, trainers, marketers, snapped cocktail pics and danced to Drake remixes. Kayla was in her element, laughing, posing, shooting stories. I felt out of place, nursing a beer in the corner. At one point, I saw her step aside with Blake. They stood by a window, him whispering in her ear, her giggling and touching his arm. It lasted seconds, but my blood ran cold. When I walked over, she stepped away fast and said, "Oh, Ethan, we were talking about a collab idea." Blake flashed his Hollywood smile and shook my hand, but his eyes were icy. I nodded, but my gut screamed something was off. 2 weeks before the wedding, my world imploded. It was a regular Tuesday, April 2020. I got home after a brutal day. A client reamed me out over a code bug, and I spent 3 hours fixing it. I just wanted to crash on the couch with a beer and Kayla, watch a dumb action flick, and forget my problems. But the apartment was empty. Lights off, silence, just the rain outside. On the kitchen counter was her phone, Rare, since she was glued to it. The screen lit up with a notification, a text from her to me. I opened it, and my heart sank. "Ethan, I can't marry you. I met someone else. I'm sorry, but it's for the best." I read it 10 times, thinking it was a mistake. A cold, blunt text, like she was canceling a pizza order, not our life. I called her, phone off. Texted on WhatsApp, no reply. I ran to the bedroom. Half her closet was gone. Her clothes, makeup, laptop, even her favorite hustle mug vanished. I checked our joint account, where we'd saved for a Costa Rica honeymoon. Empty. $10,000, my contribution, gone. She'd withdrawn it the day before while I was at work. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, as my phone blew up. The florist asking about roses, my brother checking on Tuck's pickup, Mom asking if Kayla picked a menu. I couldn't answer. My brain wouldn't process it. I called Nate, my college best friend. He was at my place in half an hour, with whiskey and pizza, though I couldn't eat. I showed him the text, and his face went red. "What the hell? She dunked you by text? Is this a joke?" I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. Nate paced, cursing Kayla, but I was numb. The next few days were a blur. Nate and I called guests, canceled vendors. The venue kept all $25,000. Catering refunded 20%. The photographer, a kind-eyed guy, gave back half, saying, "Sorry, man." I was left with $40,000 in debt and a hole inside. 3 days later, I learned the truth. Nate was at Denver Airport, seeing off his girlfriend, when he spotted Kayla and Blake. They were at the check-in for a Cancun flight, kissing like teenagers. Their suitcases had bright ribbons, and Kayla was laughing, holding his hand. Nate sent me a pic, texting, "Sorry, man, you need to know." I stared at it until the screen blurred with tears. They used my money for their getaway. I realized she'd planned this for months. Her stories with Blake, their heart emoji comments, his constant presence, it was all part of her game. I was a blind fool, and she was a master manipulator. A week after she left, I started digging to understand how it came to this. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and the only thing keeping me going was needing the truth. I checked her Instagram. She hadn't blocked me, probably enjoying my humiliation. Her stories were full of Blake, tanning on Cancun beaches, sipping umbrella drinks, dancing at neon-lit parties. But I noticed something odd. In an older post from before our split, Blake was in our apartment. I recognized the IKEA couch we picked together, the geometric pattern pillow Kayla loved. It was a month before she left. They were already close. I reached out to Sarah, her startup colleague. Sarah was blunt, with a pixie cut and a wrist tattoo, and never hid her dislike for Kayla. After a few texts, she agreed to meet at a Denver coffee shop. We sat by a window, rain falling outside, sipping lattes. Sarah sighed and said, "Ethan, I didn't want to meddle, but you need to know. Kayla and Blake started collaborating 6 months ago. It wasn't just content. They flirted in front of everyone. She called you a nice guy, but boring. Said Blake was her ticket to the big leagues." My blood ran cold. Kayla didn't just leave. She'd been cheating for months, using me as a safety net while planning her escape with him. At home, I opened our shared cloud, where Kayla once backed up her phone for photos. There was a folder with her text backups she forgot to delete. I found her chats with Blake, and each word was a knife. He invited her to parties with the right people, promised influencer intros, hinted she deserved more than Denver. She replied flirty, sending workout selfies I'd never seen. "You know how to make a girl feel special," she wrote, with a kiss emoji. Worst was an email to her friend, 3 months before the wedding. "Ethan's sweet, but he's not my level. I want more. Travel, fame, a life like Blake's. He's my way up. I sat at my laptop until 3 a.m., rereading, tears blurring my vision. She never loved me. I was just her stepping stone, a fallback, until she found someone better. I deleted all her photos from my phone, but it didn't help. I saw her everywhere. The vanilla lotion scent in the bathroom, the empty shelf where her mug sat, her Shine poster I hadn't taken down. I wrote her a long letter, anger, pain, begging her to explain why she did this. I didn't send it, but writing it showed how low I'd sunk. I knew I had to move on, but I didn't know how. The next months were a black hole, swallowing everything that made me me. I couldn't eat. Food tasted like nothing. And I dropped 25 pounds, my jeans hanging like they were on a rack. I couldn't sleep in our bed. The sheets still smelled of her vanilla floral perfume. I moved to the couch, an old thing with a beer stain, staring at the ceiling until dawn, thoughts tearing me apart. At work, I started screwing up, missing deadlines, botching code, forgetting emails. My boss, Dan, usually chill, called me into his office. "Ethan, I know you're going through it, but you gotta pull it together. This is your last shot," he said, peering over his glasses. I nodded, but I was empty inside. Social media was torture. Kayla and Blake posted from Mexican beaches, LA parties, sleek gyms with mirrored walls. They were living my dream with my money. I blocked her but still checked her profile through a fake account I made the day after she left. It was self-inflicted pain. Watching their stories, them laughing, hugging, drinking champagne, hate mixing with hurt. I hated her, but I hated myself more for still missing her. Friends tried to help. Nate crashed at my place for weeks, bringing pizza and whiskey, though I barely touched food. He played old comedies, The Incredibles, Shaun of the Dead, and cracked jokes to pull me out of the pit. "Man, she's not worth your tears. You'll find someone 100 times better," he'd say, slapping my shoulder. My sister Claire came with her husband and kids for a week. Her boys, 5-year-old Jake and 3-year-old Owen, filled the apartment with noise, building pillow forts and demanding I play dinosaurs. Claire cooked lasagna like when we were kids and hugged me when she thought I didn't see her tears. "You're stronger than you think, Ethan," she whispered. Their presence was a light in the dark, but when they left, the blackness returned. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Lynn, recommended by Claire. Her office was cozy, with a soft couch and lavender scent. Lynn, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, was no nonsense. "This isn't about you, Ethan. She used you because that's who she is. You can't control her choices, but you can control how they affect you." I nodded, but didn't believe it. When you're tossed out like trash, you look for your flaws. I pored over our photos, texts, searching for where I went wrong. Was her love ever real? Or was I just convenient? The questions kept me up, spinning in my head. I started drinking too much. A beer before bed turned into 3. One morning, I woke up on the living room floor, an empty whiskey bottle in hand, and knew I couldn't keep going like this. Eventually, Dan put me on leave. "Ethan, sort yourself out or you'll lose your job. We value you, but you gotta get back on track." I went to my parents in Omaha. Their house, with its worn carpet and old TV, was an anchor. Mom made my favorites: meatloaf, mashed potatoes, apple pie. Dad took me fishing at the lake, where we sat with rods, listening to the water. We fixed his old pickup, painted the fence, mowed the lawn. The physical work saved me. It drowned out the noise in my head. One night, Mom hugged me in the kitchen and said, "You'll find your way, son. Just give it time." After 3 weeks, I went back to Denver, feeling a little more alive. I knew it was time to change everything. Back in Denver, I realized I couldn't stay in that apartment. Every corner screamed Kayla. Her hustle mug, the geometric pillow, the vanilla lotion in the bathroom. I couldn't afford to move right away. Wedding debts were crushing, loan interest piling up like a snowball, but I started erasing her traces. I tossed her motivational posters, donated her dishes to a thrift store, repainted the walls gray to wipe out her bright pinks and mints. I bought a new navy couch and ditched the old one with the beer stain. It was like a cleansing ritual, each step giving me back a piece of myself. One night, Nate dragged me to a gym. "Enough moping like a zombie," he said, tossing me his old gym bag. "Come lift some weights, it'll help." I wasn't a gym guy. My exercise was a monthly jog and a few push-ups. But I went, mostly to get him off my back. The gym was in downtown Boulder with big windows, mountain views, and the smell of rubber and sweat. It was packed with Instagram types, girls in bright leggings, guys with tattoos and protein shakers. I felt out of place until the trainer, a bearded dude named Zach, showed me how to grip a barbell. I lifted 50 kilos, and for the first time in months, I felt a rush of strength. It was like breathing after being underwater too long. I started going 3 times a week, not for abs, but to burn off anger. Every lift was a jab at the past, at Kayla, at my own naivety. Around then, I started job hunting. Denver felt claustrophobic. Too many memories. I couldn't pass our favorite cafe or park without a pang of pain. I sent resumes to companies in Seattle, Austin, Boulder, Chicago, anywhere but here. A month later, I got an offer from a Boulder tech startup, 40 minutes from Denver. The pay was 20% higher, the work tougher, building health app software, but it was what I needed. I took it without hesitation. Moving was my lifeline. I found a small apartment in Boulder, on a quiet street with mountain views. It was basic, 1 bedroom, scuffed parquet, a kitchen with worn linoleum. But it was mine. I changed my phone number, made new social media accounts to keep Kayla out. I signed up for rock climbing classes, something Kayla always mocked, calling it sweaty and pointless. The first session was in an indoor gym, smelling of chalk and rubber. The instructor, a woman with short hair and an eagle tattoo on her shoulder, taught us to tie knots and grip holds. I fell 3 times, but reached a 5-meter wall by the end. It was the first thing I did for myself, not someone else. I started cooking, messing with Mexican recipes, enchiladas, tacos, mango salsa. Friends I invited over joked I could open a taqueria. For the first time in a year, I felt like I was living, not just surviving. Boulder was a breath of fresh air. Mountains hugged the town, streets smelled of pine, and people were chill, like every day was Friday. My new job at the health tech startup was tough, but exciting. We built an app for tracking health, blood pressure, sleep, workouts. I coded integrations with smartwatches, and for the first time, my work felt meaningful. My coworkers were cool. We grabbed coffee on breaks, debated new shows, hit a local brewery on Fridays. My boss, Amanda, was strict but fair, praising me when I nailed a bug fix. I kept climbing, and my body changed. Not Blake-level ripped, but stronger, tougher. I could scale a 10-meter wall without wheezing, and it gave me control I'd been missing. I started hiking with coworkers, exploring Boulder trails. We'd build campfires, roast marshmallows, and stargaze, and I felt part of something bigger. At home, I cooked more. My chicken enchiladas with salsa verde were a hit, and Nate, visiting from Denver, demanded double portions. I even started a notebook for recipes, something Kayla would have laughed at, calling it cute but useless. At the gym, I met Madison, or Maddie. She was 31, a physical therapist at a local clinic, fresh off a rough divorce. Maddie wasn't like Kayla, No filters, no makeup, just dark hair in a messy bun and warm brown eyes that saw right through you. She noticed me botching a bench press and instead of smirking, walked over and said, "Keep the bar like that and you'll wreck your shoulder. Let me show you." Her voice was calm but firm, like someone who knew her stuff. She fixed my form, and we got talking. She loved hiking, old rock, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and dogs. She had a golden retriever, Max, who she called her therapist. A week later, I asked her for coffee. We sat in a cozy shop with wooden tables and the smell of fresh croissants. And for the first time in years, I felt no pressure. Maddie was real. She laughed at my jokes, but wasn't afraid to tease me if I bragged. On our third date, over Mexican food, I told her about Kayla. I expected her to bolt, but she shared her story. Her ex-husband cheated for years, hiding behind a perfect family man mask. They divorced 3 years ago, and she was just starting to trust again. "We all carry baggage, Ethan," she said, meeting my eyes. "The trick is not letting it drag you down." For the first time, I felt I could be myself. No masks, no expectations. We dated slowly, no rush. Our first kiss was on our 5th date, under the stars after a hike. We didn't hurry to meet each other's friends or families. A year later, we moved in together, renting a small Boulder house with a garden for Max and a creaky porch where we drank morning coffee. With Maddie, I learned love could be simple, honest, no games or power plays. 3 years later, in June 2023, when I thought Kayla was ancient history, she came back. I was in our garage, fixing a bike, sweaty and grease-stained, when I heard an engine. A sleek black BMW pulled up. I figured it was a lost tourist. Boulder's full of them. But out stepped Kayla Reed. Same, yet different. Her chestnut hair was in perfect curls, makeup flawless, outfit designer, white blouse, tight jeans, a bag worth more than my rent. But her eyes had a cold glint, like someone wearing a mask to hide cracks. She smiled like we'd parted yesterday and said, "Ethan, you look good." I wiped my hands on a rag, pulse spiking. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. She stepped closer, her vanilla perfume hitting me like a memory. "I missed you," she said softly. "I made a mistake, Ethan. We were good together." I laughed, not out of joy, but at the absurdity. Seriously? After everything? But she kept going, using old tricks, sultry looks, a light touch on my arm, memories of our moments, park walks, laughing at my cooking fails. She admitted Blake dumped her and hinted she wanted to start over. Maddie came out of the house, garden gloves in hand, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing my old Broncos tee. Kayla gave her a dismissive once-over, like Maddie wasn't worth her time. She tried to talk to me alone, but I shut it down. "Anything you've got to say it in front of her," I said. Maddie, calm but firm, told her to leave. "You're not welcome here." Kayla drove off, spitting. "You'll regret this, Ethan." Her voice shook with anger, and I knew it wasn't over. Kayla launched a campaign, like I was a prize she had to win. The next day, my phone blew up with texts from unknown numbers. "Ethan, let's talk. I know you miss me. We were perfect. She's not your match. You'll regret choosing her." Messages came at night, morning, during work. I blocked numbers, but she found new ones, like she had an endless stash of Sims. Then she started calling Maddie at her clinic, posing as an old friend and hinting I still loved her. Maddie came home pale, but tried hiding how much it hurt. "She's trying to split us," she'd say. "Don't let her win." A week later, Kayla showed up at my office. I was in a meeting, discussing a new release, when the receptionist knocked, saying some woman demanded to see me. I walked to the lobby and saw Kayla, in a tight red dress, makeup perfect. She screamed that I ruined her life, that I owed her a chance. Coworkers stared, whispered, until security escorted her out. I felt my reputation cracking. Amanda, my boss, called me in. "Ethan, will this mess with your work?" I swore I'd handle it. But inside, I burned with shame. Kayla didn't stop. She sent my parents a 5-page letter, begging them to save me from a mistake. She claimed I was confused, that Maddie manipulated me, that we were meant to be. Mom called worried. "Ethan, what's going on? She says you dumped her." I explained, sent her old text and the airport pic. Dad was livid. "That girl's unhinged. Stay away." But Kayla went further. She made a fake Instagram, followed my friends, commented on old photos, hinting we were still talking. She even messaged Nate, claiming I missed her. I called friends, begging them to ignore her, humiliated having to explain it over and over. Maddie was my rock. "She wants a reaction," she'd say, hugging me on our porch. "Don't give it to her." But I saw how it wore her down. One night, she admitted she was scared. Kayla wouldn't stop. "She's obsessed," Maddie said, her voice trembling. I swore I'd protect her, but I didn't know how. Through Sarah, Kayla's coworker, I got the full story. We met at the same coffee shop, and Sarah spilled. Blake was a con artist. His fitness empire was a pyramid scheme, selling fake, exclusive workout subscriptions, scamming hundreds, including Kayla. He fled to Mexico, leaving her broke. Kayla lost her job when her startup tanked and moved back to her parents in Phoenix, drowning in debt. She saw me as her lifeline, a stable guy with a house, job, clean reputation. Maddie was just an obstacle to remove. I decided to end it. I couldn't let Kayla ruin our lives. After talking with Maddie, I texted Kayla from a new number, suggesting we meet at a cozy Boulder cafe with wooden tables, fresh coffee aroma, and views of the pedestrian street. "We need to talk," I wrote. "Maybe you're right about us." She replied in a minute, all emojis in glee. "I knew you'd come around." Maddie was against it. "She's unstable, Ethan. It's risky." But I knew it was the only way. "We'll do it in public, and I'll record it," I reassured her, showing the voice recorder on my phone. At the cafe, Kayla was dressed for the red carpet. Tight white dress, gold earrings, makeup highlighting her cheekbones. She smiled, confident she'd won, sitting across, legs crossed, saying we were meant to be, that Blake was a mistake, that she wanted a fresh start. Her voice was silky, but I saw the calculation in her eyes. I started the recording and laid it out. "So, Kayla, let's get this straight. You dumped me 2 weeks before our wedding, left for Blake, stole $10,000 from our account, spread lies that I betrayed you. Now, after he ditched you, you're stalking me and my fiancé?" Her face changed. The smile vanished. Eyes narrowed. She stammered, "Ethan, I was confused. Blake tricked me, like everyone else." I kept going, not letting her derail. "You called Maddie at work, showed up at my office, wrote my parents, made a fake account to spy. That's stalking, Kayla. I've got proof. Texts, calls, witness statements." She went pale, her fingers gripping the table. "Ethan, I just wanted to fix things," she whispered. But I saw her scrambling for an out. I slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for $10,000, donated in her name to a scam victim's shelter, and a therapist's card I'd grabbed at a health fair. "This is your last help, Kayla," I said. "I won't let you ruin our lives. Fix yourself. Stay away, or I'm going to the cops with evidence. I've got a lawyer, and I'm ready to file for harassment." She opened the envelope, hands shaking. "You can't do this to me," she whispered, but I stood and walked out. She yelled after me, "Ethan, please, I'll make it right." But I didn't look back. I stepped onto Boulder's streets, breathed the cool air, and felt a weight lift. Kayla vanished. The next day, she deleted all her social media, her precious profiles gone. Through Sarah, I heard she moved to Phoenix with her sister and started therapy. Rumor was she had a breakdown after our meeting, but was finally sorting her life out. Maddie and I decided not to sue. Our lawyer prepped a restraining order, but we hoped she'd stay gone. We're expecting a son, Liam. Our Boulder home is a sanctuary, a garden where Max chases butterflies, a porch where we sip coffee and plan our future. I'm grateful to Kayla, as weird as that sounds. Her betrayal was the worst pain I've ever felt, but it led me to Maddie, to a life where I'm not afraid to be myself. Donating to the shelter was my way of closing that chapter, turning pain into good. They sent a letter saying the money helped women rebuild after toxic relationships. It was like a period at the end of my story. What would you do in my shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments.